Sparta. Ah, the land of chiseled warriors, disciplined soldiers, and perhaps the most famous military state in ancient history. This is where boys became men by enduring grueling training from the age of 7, where the phrase "come back with your shield or on it" was not just an idiom but a way of life. And let's not forget the Battle of Thermopylae, where 300 Spartans held off a Persian army of thousands. But hold on to your spears, because today we're taking you on a tour that'll make you rethink that Spartan dream life. We're talking about Sparta's obsession with war, its harsh laws that'd make a drill sergeant cry, the widespread slavery that powered the society, surprisingly hazardous beauty routines and medicine practices that would send chills down Hippocrates' spine. Welcome to Leo's Time Capsule.
Buckle up, folks. We're about to give Spartan lifestyle a whole new meaning.
Alright folks, let's dive into the hardcore life of the Spartans, especially their singular focus on warfare. Historically, Sparta had a two-king system, and even their leaders had to be experienced warriors. These kings would often lead the armies into battle, emphasizing how crucial military excellence was to this society.
Oh, so in Sparta you could say, "My two dads can beat up your dad."
Haha, you're spot on, Dane. But let's go back to the Agoge. Not many people know this, but the Agoge was such a rigid system that boys who showed any signs of weakness or deformity at birth were, tragically, left on a mountainside to die. Only the fittest were allowed to enter this elite training program.
Wow, so no participation trophies in Sparta, huh?
No, absolutely not. But the Agoge wasn't just about training for war. It was also an indoctrination into the Spartan way of life. Boys would learn the state's religious rites, social customs, and even public speaking skills. Yes, you heard that right. Spartans did value good rhetoric.
So they were fierce warriors and fierce debaters. Got it.
Exactly. Now let's talk about the weaponry. The primary weapon of a Spartan warrior was the dory, a long wooden spear with a metal tip. They also had a large round shield, the aspis, which not only protected them but could be used offensively to push enemies back.
So their shield was a weapon too. Talk about multitasking.
Yep. Spartans were also known for their unique battle formation called the phalanx. This was essentially a wall of shields and spears, almost impenetrable to enemy attacks. It gave them a significant advantage on the battlefield.
A human tank formation, if you will.
That's an excellent way to put it. But remember, the life of a Spartan soldier wasn't just fighting and training. They were also involved in cultural activities like singing and dancing. You see, Spartans believed that a well-rounded warrior was also good in the arts.
So they had So You Think You Can Dance, Sparta edition, huh?
In a way, Spartans were disciplined but also cultured. And let's not forget about the role of women in Sparta. While they didn't serve in the military, they received a form of education called the gymnopedia, which involved physical training to ensure they'd be strong mothers for strong warriors.
They were basically the backbone of this entire warrior-making machine.
Indeed they were. Finally, to show how deeply ingrained warfare was in their culture, consider the Spartan epitaphs. One of the most famous reads, "Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie." It speaks volumes about their dedication to duty, honor, and of course warfare.
Wow, even their gravestones were hardcore.
So there you have it. A more comprehensive look at the Spartan warfare lifestyle. From the grueling Agoge to the disciplined adult life to the role of women in this martial society. It's safe to say that Sparta was a place where warfare wasn't just a part of life. It was life itself.
They definitely took live by the sword, die by the sword to a whole new level.
Now that we've delved into the nitty-gritty of Spartan warfare, let's tackle another subject that'll make you rethink your Spartan fantasies, Spartan law. To say that these laws were extreme would be an understatement. Unlike their Athenian counterparts, Spartans didn't bother with long discussions and philosophical debates to legislate. They had a code known as the Great Retra, which was believed to have been given by the legendary lawgiver Lycurgus.
Lycurgus. Sounds like a guy who would turn you into stone if you broke the rules.
He might as well have, Dane. The Great Retra was less about justice and more about maintaining the Spartan way of life. which as we've discussed was primarily geared toward making elite warriors. And let's talk about their assembly, or appella. Only males who had completed military service could vote, and they didn't debate. They shouted their approval or disapproval.
Ah, the good old yell to vote system. Why didn't we think of that?
Probably for good reason. Now this brings us to the concept of citizenship. To be a full citizen or spartiate, you had to complete your military training and contribute to the common mess hall. Fail to do so, and you'd be demoted to a second-class citizen, losing your voting rights and your social standing.
So, no free lunches in Sparta, eh?
No free lunches indeed. The laws were so strict that even the kings weren't above them. 2 Spartan kings ruled simultaneously, but they were held accountable by a council of elders known as the Gerousia. If a king failed to live up to expectations, he could be exiled or even executed.
2 kings, and they still couldn't get away with stuff. Tough crowd.
Very tough. And let's not forget, exile in Spartan society was severe. These exiles, known as tremblers, were shunned by society, and it was considered shameful even to speak to them.
Yikes. So if you mess up, you're not just unfollowed, you're blocked in real life.
Spot on, Dane, and here's something that'll surprise you. Despite their strict militaristic lifestyle, Spartans actually had laws that encouraged humor and wit. They believed that a sharp mind made for a better warrior. So, at communal meals, young men were tested not just on their battle skills, but also their quick thinking.
Ah, so they had their own version of whose line is it anyway, but with spears.
Precisely. So when you piece it all together, Spartan laws were not about justice or fairness. They were a complex system designed to produce an elite fighting force and a society wholly dedicated to that aim.
So think twice before wishing to time travel to ancient Sparta, unless you're ready to yell vote and risk exile for a bad joke.
All right, folks, it's time to talk about a topic that's downright unsettling, but essential to understand if we're diving into the real nitty-gritty of ancient Sparta, slavery. Now, you may remember that in Athens, slaves made up a considerable part of the population. But Spartans took it to an entirely different level. They had a slave class known as the Helots.
Helots? Sounds like a name for a failed boy band.
Maybe so, Dane. But the reality for Helots was far from entertaining. These were primarily the Messenians, who were subjugated by the Spartans and forced to work on Spartan estates. Imagine this. You're outnumbered 7 to 1 by your slaves. That's what it was like in Sparta. The Helots were the backbone of the Spartan economy, tilling the fields and doing all the manual labor.
So, they were doing the 9 to 5 while the Spartans were off playing Warrior the Musical, huh?
Exactly. And because the Spartans were so outnumbered, they lived in constant fear of a Helot uprising. So how did they deal with this fear? With a brutal and institutionalized form of terror. Every year the Spartans would declare war on the Helots, allowing them to kill any Helot without fear of punishment.
Talk about job insecurity.
That's putting it mildly, Dane. This war wasn't just a one-off event. It was part of the educational curriculum for young Spartan warriors. A secret police, known as the Cryptia, were comprised mainly of young men who would stalk and kill vulnerable Helots to instill fear and prevent rebellion.
Spartan education sounds like it came straight out of a horror movie.
It's as disturbing as it gets. But wait, there's more. Helots were forced to get drunk on wine and dance in public so that young Spartans could witness the disgraceful effects of intoxication. This was done as a lesson to dissuade them from the weaknesses of drink.
Wow, so even their don't do drugs campaigns were terrifying.
You're not wrong. And let's not forget, Helots had no rights whatsoever. They couldn't own property, couldn't marry without permission, and could be sold or killed at the whim of their masters. And they were treated essentially as subhuman, all in the service of maintaining a strong, fearsome Spartan society.
So, what you're saying is, a trip to ancient Sparta would be less like a vacation and more like a visit to the set of a dystopian thriller.
That sums it up, Dane. Slavery in Sparta was deeply interwoven into their social fabric, serving the singular purpose of maintaining a warrior culture. It was a cycle of oppression that sustained itself through terror and violence.
Gosh, Sounds like a place you'd want to avoid, even if you had a time machine.
So we've talked about warfare, laws, and slavery in Sparta. Now let's move on to something equally baffling. Medicine in ancient Sparta. We've all heard the saying, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, right? Well, in Sparta, that wasn't just a motto, it was practically their medical journal.
The Spartan healthcare plan, where your copay is 50 push-ups.
Haha, Dane, you're not too far off. Unlike their Athenian counterparts who dabbled in the early forms of medical science, Spartans were more inclined to believe in the power of endurance and resilience. From a young age, Spartan children were conditioned to bear pain and hardship without complaint.
Conditioned? More like marinated in a sauce of suffering.
Exactly. In the Agoge, the brutal training regime we mentioned earlier, kids were subjected to extreme conditions to toughen them up. They were often denied shoes to harden their feet and exposed to cold to build resistance. This was all part of their early health care.
Who needs vaccines when you've got a lifetime supply of macho?
But that's not all. The sick and the weak, especially infants, were often left on Mount Taygetus to die. This was done as a form of natural selection, to ensure that only the strongest survived and contributed to Spartan society.
Survival of the fittest, or in this case, survival of the most masochistic.
And you know what's really mind-boggling? Despite their neglect for what we'd consider modern medicine, Spartans were known for their longevity and physical prowess. In part, this was due to their simple but nutrient-rich diet, which was heavy on natural foods like olives, fruits, and lean meats.
So, a Spartan salad was basically a performance-enhancing drug?
In a way, yes. They also practiced various forms of physiotherapy, using exercises and sports to treat certain ailments. No bloodletting or leeches like you might find in other ancient societies. If you were in Sparta, your road to recovery likely involved a rigorous exercise regime.
The sweat-it-out method. How comforting.
To cap it off, because Spartan society was so focused on physical fitness, many injuries and illnesses that would be treated medically elsewhere were often met with a sort of societal scorn. If you couldn't walk it off, so to speak, you were viewed as weak.
So if you broke a leg, they'd just give you a crutch and say, "You're the hoplite now."
That's about the size of it, Dane. The Spartan approach to medicine was, in a word, brutal. It was less about treating the ailment and more about proving your worth through your ability to endure it.
So basically, Spartan medicine was like a really hardcore gym membership.
Spot on, Dane. And just like that gym membership, you'd probably regret it almost immediately. Spartan medicine was another facet of their brutal survival of the fittest society. It prioritized resilience and endurance over actual medical treatment, making it a risky proposition for anyone not conditioned by years of harsh Spartan lifestyle. All right, folks, time to talk about something that doesn't involve spears or shields, but is equally fascinating. Spartan cosmetics and beauty standards for women. Now, if you think the Kardashians are influencers in the beauty department, wait until you hear about the ancient Spartan women.
Yes, where contouring was replaced by, sword fighting.
Ha! You're onto something, Dane? In contrast to other city-states like Athens, where cosmetics made from toxic materials like lead were the rage, Sparta had a totally different beauty regime. Spartan women were forbidden from wearing makeup or any sort of beautifying garments.
Well, so no Sephora in sight, just spears and sweat.
Exactly. But don't get it wrong. Spartan women were not neglected in any way. They were given equal opportunities to train and keep fit, just like men. Physical beauty in Sparta was much more about your physical fitness and less about how well you could apply eyeliner.
So the Spartan winged eyeliner was probably a spear-throwing technique.
Likely so. The beauty standard for Spartan women was their ability to bear strong children and contribute to society. This idea of beauty was so ingrained in the culture that mothers would even send their sons off to war with the phrase, "Come back with your shield or on it."
Talk about putting the mother in motherland.
Another interesting aspect of Spartan beauty culture was their hair. While Spartan men were encouraged to keep their hair short, women wore their hair long and naturally flowing. It was considered a sign of good health and fertility, and Let's be honest, it probably saved them a lot of time in the morning.
I guess bedhead was the hottest hairstyle in Sparta.
Spot on, Dane. And it's worth mentioning that Spartan women had a lot of societal freedoms. They were educated, could own land, and even participated in some athletic competitions. They didn't need cosmetics to elevate their status.
So, empowerment came from squats, not squinty-eyed makeup tutorials?
That's right. In a world where cosmetics could be deadly, as we saw with the Athenians, Spartan simplicity may have actually been a lifesaver.
Well, when your daily routine includes spear drills, who needs a mascara? Am I right?
You're absolutely right, Dane. If you ever find yourself time-traveling to ancient Sparta, you might want to leave your beauty bag at home. Their version of a makeover would be more like a workout session than a day at the spa.
So a Spartan glow-up was literally just sweat?
Couldn't have said it better myself. Spartan cosmetics and beauty standards offer yet another glimpse into this fascinating culture. Unlike the elaborate and often hazardous beauty routines of other ancient civilizations, Sparta focused on natural beauty and physical fitness. It may have been less glamorous, but it was also a lot safer, and arguably much more empowering for women. Well, there you have it, folks. Ancient Sparta, a world where you could trade in your mascara for a spear, and where laws and medicine were as tough as the people. Makes you thankful for modern life, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'll stick to Netflix marathons, not Spartan ones, thanks.
Good call, Dane. If you found this dive into the gritty realities of ancient Sparta as fascinating as we did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more journeys back in time.